right, we will go ahead and call to meeting the city council meeting of April 20th. Can I have a roll call, please?
Alrighty, Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Here. Thank you. Ms. McCurney.
Here.
Mr. McCarthy. Here. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Here.
Mr. Weber.
Here.
All right, with that, if you can all please stand and say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So everyone has received a copy of the meeting minutes for the council meeting held on April 6th, as well as the committee of the whole. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the council that was held on April 6, 2020, as well as the committee of the whole, as written, and to dispense with the reading.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Now, I should ask Kate. I wasn't here for the committee of the whole. Do I need separate? So, okay, yes.
Okay, Ms. McCurney.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy. Yes. Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so we have no special report today, but we do have some letters, communications, citizen concerns. Mr. Hagan, if you'd like to come up, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Jim Hagan, 10741 Avenue Road. I just wanted to, since I haven't seen most of you for quite a while, I just wanted to say thank you for putting the meetings available to the people that didn't want to come in person. It's been a great help. I really appreciated it. And I would just ask you and the administration to possibly look into streaming these meetings. I think it's a great way to reach a lot of people that can't get out or don't want to come out to the individual meetings. And I'm fogging up. And my only other, because I can't come up here without a concern, is for the administration to possibly take a look out in my neck of the woods. When Woodland School is letting out at around 3:20 to 3:30 every day, they end up with cars that are parked on 795 waiting to pick up their kids. And I'm just concerned that at some point, if something isn't addressed, that there is going to be an accident out there. And I don't know what can be done about it, but I have seen as many as 4 or 5 cars parked on 795 for at least a period of 4 to 5 minutes. So that's my only concern tonight. And other than that, good to see everybody again.
Thank you. I believe we have Dr. Campbell here, if you'd like to take a few minutes to speak about what brought you here today.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of those of us out in the hinterlands. It's a pleasure to be here. I am here to represent an organization called Lake Erie Waterkeepers, which is an NGO. It is an organization which does not function as a lobby. It functions for the good of the community. If you do not know about the history of Waterkeeper, I will just mention that the reason the Hudson River is restored and you can swim in it and there are sturgeon in it is related to the origins of the Waterkeeper organization. And you may recall it was Pete Seeger and son of Robert Kennedy who basically spearheaded that. Our Waterkeeper, about whom you know a bit, is Sandy Ben. And I'm here to point out at the bottom of the document you have in front of you, the last paragraph. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the local government is requesting that President Biden sign the Lake Erie executive order for federal government leadership and coordination with states and local government and accountable phosphorus reductions to help reduce local government costs, and the economic harm to fishing, boating, swimming, and tourism caused by the toxin producing harmful algae. And that's what this is about. The reason I'm here is that I sent communications to you in the middle of March. And I did hear from one of you, Deborah Bourne called me. We lost communication subsequently, and I've had an opportunity to talk with another one of you, and I'm concerned that I have heard nothing. And I'm sure that things are going on, and I realize that being council person is not your full-time job. But I am concerned that I started corresponding on the 17th of March, and I sent documents to everybody introducing myself and the purpose of this, and a copy of the document you now have in a less readable form. And I did hear from Councilwoman Bourne, but I'm concerned that I don't know what's happening. And I do recall what happened with the bicycle trails and their sad fate. Things got put in committee and never were heard from before. I do understand that this has been moved to a committee at the moment. I did make myself available to everybody, and I'm happy, as I'm retired, to appear anywhere you would want to discuss the matters of this with you and to be helpful, as we are very hopeful that this will move forward. Already the Lucas County Commissioners and the Toledo City Council, councils of other places, Sandusky, Lakewood, and others have enthusiastically endorsed this. And it is designed in response to what we hear and often perceive in the media, that governments at this level are not heard by the federal government, and that the states seem to have considerable control over monies and other items. This is a chance, ladies and gentlemen, to stand up and be counted. Organizations such as TMACOG and others are welcome, but we hope this will be a grassroots effort. And I look forward to answering the questions that any one of you may have at any time. And thank you for your audience.
Campbell, at least on my behalf, I really appreciate what you're doing. I completely agree with you. And I do think that it would be nice if we could have a resolution at some point done by our council supporting particularly the last paragraph.
Very welcome thought. I'm going to be speaking with the executive committee of this effort tomorrow, and I will be happy to relay your interest.
This is Councilman Coleman. I had a chance to speak with you earlier today, and I found it quite informative. I guess what I'd like to know from the administration, I know the mayor's not here, is where we're at with this on the committee level, what's the plan? Because I do kind of view one of these, and I said this to Jonathan last night after I talked to you on the phone and set up the meeting for today. This is one of those bigger issues that I feel is maybe not a committee thing. I wouldn't mind spending my time at a council meeting hearing about what's going on with the Great Lakes and why it's important that we take an action like this. Now, if the other members of council think it's more appropriate in committee, I'll definitely make time to go to the Public Utilities Committee like we all have the right to do. But if it's something all the other council members are interested in hearing about and potentially supporting, I would like to see this on a council agenda rather than a committee agenda.
I would like to say, this is Councilwoman Bourne, and thank you very much, Councilman Coleman. I agree with your comments. I think this definitely needs to be brought forward to all of City Council and be on an agenda. We definitely need to discuss this, but I'd also like to see us move forward and do something about it as well.
You've been very kind. I appreciate your comments, and I can't ask for anything more. Thank you for your time.
I do have a comment. This is
Yeah.
Councilwoman Attorney. I am originally from Port Clinton. I grew up on the lake. I saw firsthand of the changes when I was a child. You didn't swim in the lake. That was late 60s because of how bad it was. And while we've come a long way since the Cuyahoga River burned, we still have a lot farther to go, and I'm in support of this too.
You're quite correct. There are other problems. I happen to live near the Maumee River and want to point out to you that Wood County is actually on Lake Erie because the estuary ends about the Maumee-Perrysburg Bridge. And so despite the seiches and other things, we are part of the lake. I also have monitored the water and have a program that I can present to anybody who's interested. The phosphorus level is extremely high. In the summer, when we begin to have problems in the lake, the river actually turns green. You can take out the water and hold it up. What is there is not microcystin, but planktothrix, which also can make it's not microcystis, but planktothrix, which can also produce the microcystin. We have problems with other toxins. Saxitoxin is another one, an interesting issue to speak about if you happen to remember Gary Powers and the U2. The poison he was supposed to take was saxitoxin, and it was on the end of a needle, and he was supposed to die instantly. Microcystin and saxitoxin are twins. But thank you very much.
Dr. Campbell, I have a question. This is Councilman Weber. Just one quick question. Have you looked into having any kind of a public forum, like maybe something at the library, a presentation, perhaps a PowerPoint of something that
Well,
give public awareness?
I have given lectures many places and nationally, but it was about 2016. I gave a talk at the Knight Center and expected 5 people to show up. There was standing room only. There is interest in this, and I would be happy. If I can give you a lecture tailored any way you want to any audience with prearranged questions to try to answer them. I'm happy to speak in the community at any time. You have an editorial that I wrote for the Messenger Journal among your things, and I ask you to look at that. That's written in a literary fashion to set the tone for what happens when disasters are not planned for. And in it, I quote the literature that points out, depending on concentration and time, that microcystin can be carcinogenic. It killed 50 people in a dialysis unit, and we aren't finished with that yet. And the problem is getting worse instead of better. Thank you for your comment.
Dr. Campbell, I just wanted to clarify though, did you receive the email where we had invited you to come to the public utilities to speak?
No.
Okay, because that's when I got the call last night from Councilman Kuhlman, I was surprised to hear that there was frustration because I was under the impression that an email was communicated to you to come to the public utilities.
Well, I did get a brief communication, but there was not, it was by telephone. Dave Krebs was very helpful, but I was not invited.
Okay, because that invitation was extended if you'd like to come to our next public utilities meeting.
Any time. If
That
it,
is on,
the 28th.
yes, it sounds
It's
correct.
I was concerned because of considerable delay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was surprised to hear about. I was actually out of town soon after, but soon after the 17th. And so I was under the impression that communication had been made to extend the invitation to the public utilities. If you'd like to come on the 28th, we'd be more than happy to entertain you to go into more detail so we can have a further discussion.
I'd be happy to, but any possibility of moving things forward faster in another way, I would most appreciate. Thank you for your time.
Any other letters, communications, or citizen concerns? Hearing none, move on to the administrative reports. I know the mayor's not here today, so the city administrator,
No report.
finance director,
I have no report tonight.
law director.
I have no report, but I do have a request when we get to the personnel committee that we do executive session, please.
And president of council, I have no report today. We'll move on to committees, finance, and economic development.
Thank you, your acting honor.
I don't know if I says take offense to that or is it compliment?
The meeting, yes, the Finance and Economic Development Committee did meet on April 13th. And the meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. by Chairman Mark Weber. Committee members present were Deborah Bourne, myself. Tim McCarthy was absent. Also present were Bridget Cabot, City Administrator, Kate Sandretto, Law Director, Dave Krebs, Finance Director, Amber Rathburn, Deputy Finance Director, and Steve Ronder, Income Tax Commissioner. On the approval minutes, I stated at hearing no objections. The minutes of the February 9th, 2021 meeting were approved. Ms. Bourne said the minutes were already approved at the City Council meeting and she was abstaining. The resolution in support of the Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce. Tim Schneider, Manager of Local Government Affairs for the Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce, was present via teleconference to request that City Council approve a resolution urging the United States Postal Service to use a mail sorting center in Toledo. Mr. Schneider said that in 2012, mail sorting was transferred from Toledo to the Michigan Metroplex. More than 20 local area governments have either approved or are considering similar resolutions. Mr. Schneider said that in the latest survey they conducted of their members, 100% of the respondents said that the delays in the mail service have negatively impacted them and their customers. I stated that our water and sewer customers have definitely been impacted because of utility bills have been delayed. I said that I support the idea and Ms. Bourne agreed. We asked Mr. Schneider to attend the City Council meeting if he was available.
He called in. Sorry. Kate Sandretto, Law Director. He is called in, but everyone who calls in is muted. If we have questions for him, I did arrange that we would call him via cell phone and put him on speaker if necessary. But I was under the impression that you and Ms. Bourne would be more than capable of arguing in favor of this resolution.
Oh, absolutely. We are, and I'll be introducing that resolution tonight. So if during discussion anyone has questions, we can maybe unmute him. Okay, on the disposal of vehicles, Ms. Sandretto stated that any vehicles with a Kelley Blue Book value in excess of $1,000 must have City Council approval for their disposal. She requested approval to dispose of the following vehicles. In the Fire Division, a 2009 Chevy Impala with 63,225 miles and an estimated KBB value of $4,834 to $6,107. For the Department of Public Services, we have 2001 International 4900 DT 466E heavy-duty truck. Yeah, everybody knows what that is, right? With 56,266 miles and estimated KBB value of 7,950 and a 2000 International DT 466E heavy-duty truck with 51,007 miles and an estimated KBB value of 7,950. Ms. Bourne asked, why is this going through Finance Committee? And Ms. Sandretto explained that vehicle disposals will be brought to the Finance Committee from now on because it is a financial issue. And the committee agreed 2-0 to recommend approval. Economic Development, Glenn Grisdale, the city's economic development consultant, was present to review his report of the 2020 CRA and TIF programs. He said that 9 CRAs and 1 TIF were monitored for fiscal year 2020. All generally met or exceeded their performance thresholds, and all school donation agreements are current and have been invoiced. Finance Director's report. The committee reviewed expenditures greater than $5,000 for the month of March. Ms. Bourne asked about a payment to OHM for the land use plan, and I asked about payments to WeCare, Wex Bank, and MTM Transit. Ms. Bourne asked who owns MTM Transit and where are they located. Ms. Cabot said she would send a follow-up email with that information, which we received that very same evening. Mr. Krebs reported that the balance in the health insurance fund as of March 31st, 2021 was $178,665.61, which is down from February. He said that the previous third-party administrator has been processing run-out claims, which accounts for some of the decrease. Ms. Sandretto stated that the refuse levy is an odd-numbered year levy, which was last on the ballot in November of 19. This is a 2-step process, and the first step is a resolution of necessity. If approved, the resolution will be sent to the Wood County Auditor, who will send us a certificate showing how much the levy will generate. Another resolution will be needed for the levy to actually be placed on the ballot. I asked if the amount had been increased, and Ms. Andretto said it remains at 1 mil. Mr. Krebs noted that this is a replacement levy. The committee agreed 2-0 to recommend approval of the resolution of necessity. Ms. Andretto stated that the street tree assessment, which is 0.1 mil, is done every year, and the lighting assessment, which is 0.3 mils, is done in odd number years. She said that, like the refuse levy, the first step of the process is a resolution of necessity. I asked, just for the heck of it, is there any way that these can ever be eliminated, or has there ever been any talk that? And I said they aren't a lot, but they may add up. But Ms. Bourne agreed. Ms. Cabot stated that they have not discussed it internally, but the city council can make that decision. Mr. Krebs said that he believes most municipalities collect these assessments. And I was just asking if many complaints are received about these assessments, and Ms. Cabot said she has not heard any complaints about the lighting. Occasionally someone will call and want a street tree that they aren't happy, and that they are placed on a list. So after some further research on my own, I definitely realized the necessity of this very small assessment. So the committee agreed 2-0 to move the resolution on to city council. Ms. Andretto requested approval of a contract with Delta Dental for employees' dental insurance. She said the contract actually expired March 31st, but there is language in the contract that it rolls over anyway. Mr. Krebs noted that there is no change in the rates. The committee agreed 2-0 to recommend approval of the contract. The Tax Commissioner's report, Mr. Bronder reported that tax collections for the month of March were $1.6 million, which compared to March 2020 is an 18% increase. However, Mr. Bronder said that last year the building was shut down for part of March and non-essential personnel were sent home. He said that he compared March of 2021 to March of 2019, and collections for March are up 1.5% over 2019. Year-to-date collections for the first quarter were $4.9 million, which is up 4% from last year and up 3.1% from the first quarter of 19. In other business, I asked about the city receiving the COVID relief money, and Ms. Cabot said that the city will be receiving funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, but they are still waiting on specific guidance as to what the funds can be used for. She said that she has heard it can be used for tax replacement. I asked that once the administration receives the guidelines that the information be passed along to City Council. Ms. Cabot said that our Council President Smith has talked to the mayor about it. Also, I asked Ms. Bourne if there were any budget items she would like to discuss, since she expressed concerns when the budget amendment was approved. Ms. Bourne said she addressed those issues at the time. I encouraged her to bring up concerns regarding the budget at the committee level so we can discuss it as a committee first. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 6:19. I have 8 pieces of legislation to introduce, and if there are no objections, I'll introduce the vehicle disposals together, and I'll separate the resolutions of necessity from the others. So, here we go. I would like to introduce Resolution 2621 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only.
Are you gonna combine them or you just do one?
Not this one.
Okay.
This one's gonna be separate.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Attorney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy. Yes. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen. Yes. Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolution number 26, 2021. A resolution joining the Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce in strongly urging the United States Postal Service to consider returning mail processing operations to its sorting facility at Toledo, Ohio.
I move that Resolution 26, 2021 be passed.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Attorney,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy. Yes. Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Resolution 27, 2021, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Attorney.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy. Yes. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolution number 27, 2021. authorizing an agreement with Delta Dental for the provision of dental insurance coverage for the city of Perrysburg for the period of April 1, 2021 through March 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolution 27, 2021 be passed as an emergency.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Attorney,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to introduce resolutions 28, 29, and 30, 2021, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for the readings by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Attorney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 28, 2021, declaring one 2009 Chevrolet Impala currently used by the fire division no longer needed for public use or unfit for public service and declaring an emergency. Resolution number 29, 2021, declaring one 2001 International 4900 DT 466E heavy-duty truck currently used by the Department of Public Service no longer needed for public use or unfit for public service and declaring an emergency. And resolution number 30, 2021, declaring one 2000 International 4900 DT 466E heavy-duty truck currently used by the Department of Public Service no longer needed for public use or unfit for public service and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolutions 28, 29, and 30, 2021 be passed as emergency measures.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
and Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Finally, I would like to introduce resolutions 31, 32, and 33, 2021, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for their readings by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
and Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
and Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolution number 31, 2021, a resolution declaring the necessity of a replacement levy in excess of the 10 mil limitation pursuant to revised code section 5705.19B for the purpose of providing for the collection and disposal of trash. Resolution number 32, 2021, a resolution declaring the necessity to improve certain public places in the city by lighting. And resolution number 33, 2021, a resolution declaring the necessity to provide for the removal and special treatment of shade trees and controlling the blight and disease of same, and for planting, maintaining, trimming, and removing shade trees in and along the streets and within public rights-of-way of the city of Perrysburg.
I move that resolutions 31, 32, and 33, 2021 be passed.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Okay, and the next Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting is Tuesday, May 11th at 5:30 PM. The end of my report.
Thank you. Safety Committee.
Thank you, Acting Mayor.
I'm noticing a trend.
I do not have a report as we have not met. Our next scheduled meeting, if necessary, will be on April 27th at 6 PM.
Thank you. Recreation Committee.
Thank you, President Council and Acting Mayor Smith. Do you have a report? Just a second. I just had to get, I have myself so organized. There we go. Then I'm really organized. Okay, this is the Perrysburg, for the Perrysburg City Council Recreation Committee meeting. The report for the regular meeting of April 13th, 2021. Present were Chairwoman Deborah Bourne, Councilors Jan Attorney, and Jonathan Smith. Chairwoman Deborah Bourne called the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. After a roll call and the Pledge of Allegiance, the administration reports of the meetings of February 9th, 2021 and March 9th, 2021 were approved. The former 3-0, the latter 2-0, Ms. Materney abstaining. No citizen concerns were presented. Chairwoman Bourne asked that the single new business item discussion with PABSC representatives be moved up to this point in the agenda. Bob McLean, 9619 Millcroft Road, an executive member of PABSC, was present. He stated that the organization has been seeking guidelines concerning how they should operate during the pandemic. He said that he sent questions to council, the administration, and the Wood County Health Department. Ms. Cabot got back to him and clarified some of the issues, as did Mr. Robinson, Wood County Health Commissioner. He also talked to Lana Lori, the Wood County Environmental Health Director. All of these confirmed there appears to be a problem of miscommunication within the PABSC organization. Chairwoman Bourne said that there seems to be an internal issue to resolve and asked the PABSC to keep her and the committee informed about the resolution. Ms. Bourne said that she had spoken with Mr. Robinson, who told her he appreciated that PABSC is preparing assessments, but that it was not necessary that they turned it into him. Mr. Robinson stated that if Ms. Bourne called the governor's office, they would send her back to him. Ms. Bourne also talked to Public Service Director Rob Ross, who told her he appreciated knowing that the assessments were being done, but did not need to see them. Mr. McLean stated that Ms. Cabot had told him that the law director prepares a standard agreement which any group renting the fields has to sign, and any COVID-related issues will be resolved by the health department or internally. Mr. Smith stated that he had not received the email Mr. McLean had sent to council. Mr. McLean clarified that the email had gone only to Chairwoman Bourne. There was no discussion on any of the old business items on the agenda. Chairwoman Bourne reported that on the April 5th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, she stated that the members seemed to be very excited about the erosion project being done around 3 Meadows Pond. She also announced that Jessica Kemp was returned as chair and Will Harbauer is recording secretary. The meeting adjourned at 6:39 p.m. The next regular meeting will be May 11th at 6:30 p.m. Report prepared by myself, Deborah Alborn, chairwoman, March 18th. I'm sorry, that should have said April 18th, sorry about that. April 18th, 2021. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Tim McCarthy speaking. We met on April 15, 2021, present with myself, committee members Corey Coolidge and Barry Van Hoosen, Law Director Kate Sandrato, Planning and Zoning Administrator Brody Walters, and Police Chief Pat Jones. The minutes of the March meeting were approved, and then the balance of the meeting was devoted to talking about DORA. Chris Moore, Inside the Flag, was present. He's here again tonight to discuss some difficulties the downtown liquor permit holders have encountered as they try to comply with the initial DORA ordinance. One of the requirements was that permit holders obtain liability insurance for the DORA. However, their efforts to obtain such coverage have not been fruitful. Insurance carriers are not interested in writing coverage as they are unsure of what risks exist with the DORA. Further, the individual liquor permit holders each have their own liability coverage. The second issue that they encountered is with the formation of a corporation or limited liability company. The Department of Liquor forbids manufacturers of alcohol from having a financial interest in an entity with distributors of same, and Inside the Five is a manufacturer while the other permit holders are distributors. In order to get the DORA underway, the administration, in consultation with Councilmember Barry Van Hoosen, had drafted some potential changes in the DORA ordinance, and Law Director Sandretta presented those changes. The first is that the Section 8 requirement of a corporation or limited liability company in acquisition of liability insurance coverage be eliminated. In lieu thereof, the DORA will designate one individual as the principal contact person for the city to resolve any issues involving DORA activities. Further, the liquor permit holders will be required to furnish proof of liability insurance coverage. Next, Section 7 had earlier required that the CUPs identify the name of the particular permit holder. The ordinance had been revised to eliminate that requirement, simply at its cost. Chief Jones pointed out that no other DORA that the city has looked at had such a requirement. Finally, the city will purchase and install signage for the DORA as the boundaries for the DORA are set by the city, not individual permit holders or merchants. In that they are city signs like other traffic signs and the like. The signage will not call for review by the Historic Landmarks Commission. Committee member Coleman had expressed a concern about the existing provision that the safety director or chief of police can modify or suspend the hours of the DORA during special events. He questioned whether any such modification should be approved by an appropriate council committee. The chief responded that to date there's only been discussion of modifying the hours on Harrison Rally Day. Perhaps they have the DORA start at 4 p.m. After the booths have closed. He said that there has been no discussion of changing the hours during farmers market. The chief said that his department will evaluate all events for any potential issues as they usually do. He told us a little bit about that process. And he was not planning to excessively modify hours for the DORA. I commented that I was satisfied to leave these decisions to the chief. Committee member Van Hoosen concurred. Law Director Kate Sandretto pointed out the existing ordinance calls for its initial first-year review to come in relatively few months, this coming September, at which time this issue could be reevaluated, and Councilmember Bloom was satisfied that we could proceed for now and then reassess the issue in September. Committee member Van Hoosen questioned another requirement that permit holders could be asked to bear the costs of additional law enforcement for the DORA during special events. My comment was that the liquor permit holders are not the only businesses to benefit from the DORA, as all downtown merchants do so as well. Again, Chief Jones told us a bit about the process that the police department goes through to talk about additional law enforcement, and he indicated he would be careful in assessing such costs. I was satisfied that the city administration would be judicious in making decisions regarding charging the DORA hours or charging for police coverage at special events, given that the initial first-year review of the DORA will soon be occurring. After further discussion, we voted 3-0 to recommend approval of the amendments to the full council. And that did constitute the balance of our business that evening. Barry Van Hoosen really did the heavy lifting on this and working with the permit holders and the administration to get us to what is hopefully the finish line, at least until September on this. And so I've asked Barry to introduce those three ordinances. He reluctantly agreed, and I emphasize reluctantly, I had to threaten him.
Thank you, Tim. So should we read these separately?
I put them all together just because the discussion might be simpler that way. That's what I would recommend.
Could I ask you if you could just put two of them together, 29 and 30?
Be more than happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce ordinance 2930, 2021, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number entitled only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. McCurney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ordinance number 29, 2021, amending codified ordinance number 7, 2020, which is an ordinance creating a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Perrysburg and enacting regulations and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Smith and President Smith, I have some discussion.
We have to get it on the floor yet.
Okay, ordinance number 30, 2021, amending ordinance number 7, 2020, which is an ordinance creating a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Perrysburg and enacting regulations and declaring an emergency.
I move that ordinances 29, 30, 2021 be passed as an emergency amendment.
Second.
Discussion.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Smith, President Smith, and Acting Mayor Smith. I think I got all that right. This is Councilwoman Warren. I wanted to say that I have consistently voted against the imposition of DORA at our historic downtown, and I believe it will cause severe damage to the other downtown retail businesses and property within walking distance of the downtown. I intend to vote no on all three of these ordinances. I still believe that the vast majority of residents of the city of Perrysburg do not want this. People who choose to move to Perrysburg, as well as those who grew up here and stayed here, are here because of safety and security, and which is important to them, and they like the traditional feel of Perrysburg. This particular version of DORA will put drinkers on the streets of downtown 11 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, and 9 hours a day on Sunday, 365 days a year. However, two of these contain flaws and misjudgments on top of their general irrelevance. They are designated below. Ordinance 29, 2021 states that permit holders participating in the DORA shall designate one individual as the DORA contact person. If this person is authorized, then the identity of the representative should be specified in the ordinance, and it ideally should be one of the bar owners, so they are held directly accountable. Ordinance 30, 2021 deletes from Ordinance 7, 2020, Section 3, the phrase "subject to final approval by Historic Landmarks Commission." The action is meaningless for two reasons. The previous sentence in Ordinance 7, 2020 still reads, "Signage shall be found to be in compliance with the Perrysburg codified ordinances." This means that regardless of whether or not the subsequent phrase is deleted from the ordinance, the historic landmarks ordinance is still part of the codified ordinances, and signage within the historic district must be approved by the commission. Number two, the Historic Landmarks Commission is not the entity which gives final approval. If an applicant requesting a certificate of appropriateness is turned down, they have the right to appeal to City Council, which has effective final approval. The city administration has the same right to do this as anyone else, and there is no conflict because the executive and legislative branches of the city government are separate. The ordinance also states that the city administration will use its own branding rules for signage in the historic district instead of the standards and guidelines recommended by the United States Department of the Interior, which are referenced in the historic district ordinance. It needs to be mentioned that this rebranding policy was imposed on the city in the fall of 2020, according to the city website, with no public review whatsoever, either city council or the general public, and neither the same of the person who created it or nor the person who authorized them to do it has been made public. In conclusion, the whole process is nothing more than a continuation of the city administration's long-term goal of eliminating the city's unique heritage and replacing it with a generic cookie-cutter suburb like the others. Thank you.
I have two comments, Jonathan. With respect to the individual designated, there's no name mentioned because it calls for an annual designation by May 1 of each calendar year. So there is no one individual who will in perpetuity be that representative. As Chris Morris this year. And we appreciate his willingness to take on that role. But next year it could be someone different, and after a year dealing with this, Chris may very well hope there's someone else to take the spot. With respect to ordinance 30, it does recite that the signage will be in compliance with the Perrysburg codified ordinances. I assume all our traffic signage is in compliance with our own ordinance. And given that, as I think we kind of started down this road, our thinking was a little bit off, that this was some sort of foreign body, but the DORA is a city creature. The city created it by law, but only the city can create it. And so the DORA boundaries are no different than any other signs that the city puts up. And I don't venture any opinion on the city's brand. I didn't think it in any way eroded the cultural heritage or history of the community. But I know brands of any type and any organization can generate opinions. But I intend, obviously, to support these ordinances I did in committee.
This is Councilwoman Attorney, I have a couple comments to make. Of course, the signage has to adhere to our ordinance, because they'll have to meet the standards as set forth by the Federal Manual of Uniform Traffic Code devices, which is probably codified in the city ordinance, right? Correct. Second of all, I want to state that when we originally came up with DORA, it was not our intention to create such hurdles. They were unintended. A bunch of us, mainly Barry, has led negotiations with various entities who wanted to be part on the retail, on the refreshment side of DORA to get this worked out so we could get it. And it was our intent as far as I know, to have this up and running by June because we wanted it. We realized this past year has been extremely painful for businesses throughout the U.S., particularly in Perrysburg, and we are trying to do everything we can as council members to help them out, because that's what makes part of Perrysburg, is our businesses and the unique ones we have and stuff. So thank you very much, Barry, for taking the lead and doing this, and I appreciate it. And
I have one comment. Councilman Weber. You know, as council members, we are trying to help our small businesses and our, especially, the ones in the town area. And I have to disagree with Ms. Bourne about, there's many businesses that really did support this very highly, especially in all the meetings that I attended last year when this was passed. There was a lot of support from the other businesses, other than the bar owners. A lot of the other shops. So this is be a very good thing. And thank you, Barry, also for everything you've done to make this happen. I'm in full support of these ordinances.
Councilman Weber, I stand by what I said.
I was just wondering if you said it or it sounded like more like a legal opinion.
No, it's my opinion, and it's what I wrote. It took me a long time, it was painstaking, but I did write it.
Thank you.
Okay, if I could have the floor. Simply put, I just view this as a win-win. I look forward to voting for this. I believe this is something that has the potential to help our downtown businesses. I also view it as something that our citizens want. That's a win-win to me. One of the questions I'm getting a lot of, and I hope we can kind of give a general idea, is when can our citizens expect it? Because I know the first nice Saturday of April, I was getting text messages.
And then it snowed. I actually have been in contact with Liquor Control, so they need a couple of more things from the administration, one of which I cannot provide until we have a city engineer who starts May 3rd. Once they have checked off all of their boxes, they turn around and they put into their system in an Excel spreadsheet all of the roads that are inside of the DORA and all of the liquor permit holders that exist on those roads. They then send notice to those permit holders that tells them they are not part of a DORA. Once the notice is sent, and they have said that they will send me an electronic copy, which they've also stated that turnaround is not particularly long, the DORA has their blessing and can proceed. So this is really a matter of getting the final bits of information to liquor control and the city having the time necessary to put the signs up that we need to put up so that everybody knows where the boundaries are. I would definitely say by Memorial Day weekend, our goal is sooner if possible to assist with this to the best of our ability, but we are definitely focused on no later than Memorial Day weekend.
That is fantastic news. I think a lot of people will appreciate having some sort of guideline on when it's going to be implemented. I would like to remind our constituents and members of the city and visitors that this is the first passage. We are going to review this in September. Your constant feedback would be appreciated, whether you're for the DORA or against it. The things you're experiencing that you don't like and the things that you do like and the things that could make it better. Right now, I believe we, at the committee level, have identified potential issues that obviously have not arisen because it's not implemented yet. We have our eye on those things. We will hope to make it better in the future, provided that it is doing good things for the city.
Thank you, everyone, and I too would like to just echo exactly what Councilwoman Attorney had mentioned with the unintended consequences and hurdles, and thank you, Councilman Van Duzen, for taking the lead to help get these results so we can get this off the ground. And I appreciate hearing that the goal is May, whatever, Memorial Day, I don't know off the top of my head, but that last Monday in May is that weekend that we have this thing up and running, and I would like to encourage to try to move that along as quickly as possible, whenever possible.
Do keep in mind that signs have to be ordered.
I know that that's gonna be the
That is an
hurdle. But hopefully we can get those ordered before we even have approval from the liquor department to just get everything ready to go. Because it sounds to me that this has a good chance of passing here tonight. So with that, I will have a roll call.
Okay. Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
No.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce ordinance 31, 2021, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number, title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call, sorry.
Ms. Moore.
No.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
And this is ordinance 31, correct?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 31, 2021, amending ordinance number 7, 2020, which is an ordinance creating a designated outdoor refreshment area for downtown Perrysburg and enacting regulations and declaring an emergency.
I move that ordinance 31, 2021 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
No.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the end of our report.
All right, thank you. Next item is our personnel committee.
Thank you, Council President Smith and Acting Mayor. I see you updating your resume as we speak.
That's it. Lincoln's gonna have a new profile here.
The Personnel Committee, although I apologize, I did not do so well in getting a report out to my fellow council members, but Mary Jo was pleasant enough to give me a template to read off. It was a rather straightforward meeting that convened on April 15th, 2021. Meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. By myself. The committee members present were Corey Coleman, Sue McCarthy, and Mark Weber. Also present were Kate Sandretto, Law Director, and Kelly Chalfant of the Human Resources Department. The committee immediately went into executive session to discuss collective bargaining. Committee returned from the executive session at 5:55 p.m. agreeing 3-0 to recommend approval of the proposed agreement with the general unit. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 5:56. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we suspend the rules and move into executive session so that we may discuss collective bargaining matters.
Roll call.
Okay, roll call. Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
We will be back.
And we will be back shortly. I'll make a motion that we return from executive session.
Second.
Roll call.
Oh, why not? Okay, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Not here.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will go ahead and I would like to introduce ordinance 32/2021 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Ordinance number 32, 2021, authorizing the city of Perrysburg to enter into an agreement with ASME Local 3906 and declaring an emergency.
I move that ordinance 32/2021 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Public Utilities, and Public Utilities does not have a report. The next meeting is April 28th at 6:30 p.m. That is the end of my report. Service.
The service is not met, so I don't have a report. My meeting's on the same day, ready for Jonathan Smith.
Any other business for the good of the council?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say so.
Anyone that objects?
So, this is Councilman Coolman. It's one of the titles I go by. I go by Attorney Coolman, Joel's brother, Kay and Craig's son. But one of the things I'm most proud of is that I'm father to Austin, Canelo, and Lena Coolman. And I had a rough day. A real rough day. I listened to a recording last night that troubled me deeply. My son is half Mexican. His mother is a full Mexican. She does wonderful things in the Latino community in Toledo. And I knew that when we had a son and we were raising him in Perrysburg, at some point I'd probably have to have a conversation with him. That sometimes people may say things and reduce him to something that he has no control over, that is offensive, that's racist, and that is wrong. What happened to that boy on that bus is despicable. That would be my worst nightmare as a parent. And no one should be subjected to that, especially not a child. And unfortunately, it seems like I'm gonna have to have that conversation with my son earlier than I expected. And I trust Tom Hostler, I trust the school's administration, I trust our mayor, I trust the people up here, and a vast majority of our citizens, I trust you to do the right thing and react appropriately. But things like this can't keep happening. We have to look at ourselves and we have to decide whether we're going to be reactive or proactive. It's tough. It's tough. I learned a lot from the kids on that bus, I'll tell you that. Those two kids on the bus, and I'm going strictly from what I read in the news, that reported what that gentleman said to that kid, kudos to them. kudos to them. That was brave. That is bravery. That kind of ignorant stuff being said by an adult that's in a powerful position, and the two kids knew what was right. Now, I don't know what we can do about it. Like I said, I trust the school to handle it appropriately, but I'm troubled deeply as a father to a Mexican child. And I hope I never see it. I sincerely apologize to the woman who went through that, and I wasn't gonna talk about it tonight. Because initially I thought it was a school issue, but this is a community issue, and we need to acknowledge it and we need to move forward. And we need to make sure our kids that are growing up here are not facing that type of treatment. This is one of the best communities in Ohio to raise a child, to be a family. And it didn't seem like it last night to me. I rest assured that I don't feel isolated. I know I have a lot of people up here that are fathers, raised their own kids, mothers, have family members that never want to go through that, and they're going to be empathetic to that situation, that child's situation. So I guess what I want to say is anything we can do as a city council to help our residents feel more included, please let me know. Reach out to me, reach out to our city. We want to know how to be better. I want to live in a Perrysburg where I don't even have to have that conversation with my kid. We saw what can happen when people realize there's a problem. We saw it in the inclusive playground. Everyone came together, fixed the problem, and we're going to be no short of help on that moving forward. We need to acknowledge this problem, and we need to move forward and be proactive rather than being reactive. So with that, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey, for speaking out.
Well said, Corey, thank you.
Yep, amen.
Anything else for council tonight? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Okay.
Aye.
Second it,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.